Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We join you today from cotton country in southwest Oklahoma. And at harvest time this year, producers say it's an all or nothing kind of crop. The cotton stripper is making steady work of this dryland field on the Muller family farm in Jackson County.
Compared to normal, this is a bad year. Compared to 2011, this isn't bad. I mean, this is a whole lot more than we got out of 2011. So things are better, but we just can't seem to shake the drought in southwest Oklahoma.
The proof is in the numbers. Disappointing yields on the non-irrigated land.
It's making a little over half a bale to the acre, about 275 pounds, which it'll cover the variable cost. It won't cover all the production costs, but at least we'll get our variable costs back. And it was rotated out and that'll go back into wheat.
A good portion of Oklahoma got decent rains, but not necessarily the case around here.
Rainfall, what we had this year was extremely spotty. Every half a mile could vary 3 or 4 inches throughout the growing season.
With no water released from the area's irrigation source, some areas were left unplanted this cotton season. Others, Muller irrigated with closely rationed well water.
Water quality is quite marginal. They're high in salts and chlorides, but we've installed quite a bit of drip irrigation tape, and we can put on smaller amounts and uniformly apply that. And where we were able to do that, we had very good yields this year.
4 bales per acre, in fact, the best yields of his farming career. But that inconsistency holds true across Jackson County, according to Extension Director Gary Strickland.
Maybe 95% of our cotton acres were failed this year. The cotton harvest that we will primarily take will be on the west side of the county. A few fields maybe south in the county that had some irrigation wells where the producers could irrigate. We have a few acres of dry land, no-till cotton that will produce, but for the majority of our cotton acres, again with the drought, dry climate, very limited soil moisture, we failed the majority of our acres.
With fewer acres in cotton, Muller had time to use specialized techniques like soil moisture monitoring and nutrient testing.
It requires a lot more management and time and scrutiny, and there's a rather large learning curve. Some of it still is much an art as a science to be able to interpret the data you're getting back, and I'll learn more next year from it. But because of the drought, I knew we have more time than we normally do because things aren't as hectic because we're not in full-blown production. I wanted to experiment and try some new things this year.
And as most farmers know, adapting to the conditions is what keeps you in business. Joining us now is Randy Bowman, our Extension Cotton Specialist. And Randy, we kind of saw the picture in Jackson County. How's the region as a whole looking during harvest?
Well, there's no doubt that we're absolutely standing in one of the most beautiful sites that a cotton farmer or a cotton person can ever hope to see. The good news is that as we get away from, you might say, the irrigation district area, and we can get into these fields where we have a adequate amount of groundwater, we just really have an excellent crop out there in a lot of places. We've had a lot of issues in Jackson County within the irrigation district. I mean, there's no doubt that that's been a real problem for the last 3 years in a row. But as we move out, really in 2013, what we're seeing is a lot of cotton where growers have record yields. As we move closer toward Oklahoma City, we've had quite a bit more rain up there. I'm getting some reports from the Carnegie Co-op gin there that a lot of the fields are running 4+ bales per acre that have been harvested thus far. So really it's good news, and it's great to see.
So as it continues, you do have these areas that did get some decent moisture, but then you have those areas that didn't.
Right.
It really is an all or nothing kind of harvest.
It really is. If you follow the history of the D4 and the D3, the extreme to exceptional droughts in the state, it seems like everybody east of us got painted, with a little different color. And mostly the counties of Tillman, Jackson, and Harmon County, these counties were pretty much D3 or D4 the entire year. I think we looked at the Mesonet this morning and less than 15 inches total in the last year at Altus. It's a tough situation. But in other places, the rainfall that we did get really was augmented by the irrigation. And so the irrigation really put us over the hump. It really, to me, this is a great site. This is really about as good as it gets. And if we look at what the USDA NASS people are telling us, they think, or they claim, that we planted about 185,000 acres. And the last report that came in put us at about 170,000 harvested acres. I just don't see us harvesting that much, because we have to fail a tremendous number of acres in Jackson County. That's in the irrigation district. We have to fail a sizable number of dryland acres in Tillman County, and also here in Harmon County. So I think that our harvested acres are going to be somewhere in the 110 to 120,000 range, and I think that we could certainly see well over 200,000, 250,000 bales off that. If this is any indication of what we're going to harvest from the stuff that's out there.
Okay, Randy Bowman, our Extension Cotton Specialist. Thank you. Of course, you can't talk about cotton in southwest Oklahoma without discussing Lake Altus Lugert and the irrigation district it supports. Tom Buchanan oversees that district.
We have the largest watershed of any individual lake in the state of Oklahoma. It's just in excess of 2,600 square miles. It starts just east of Amarillo and, of course, then extends all the way down into Lugert itself. When we are full, we hold 135,000 acre feet. And today I think we're somewhere around that 14,000 acre feet, which is really just a large mud puddle is about all it is.
Normally, this relatively small area produces a significant portion of Oklahoma's cotton crop, but for 3 years now, the irrigation ditches have been dry.
There is zero cotton harvest going on in Jackson County inside the irrigation district. This is our 3rd year in a row that we have missed a cotton crop, and by that I don't mean a bad crop or a small yield. Absolutely zero is being harvested in the 46,000 acres that we irrigate.
Farmers do have crop insurance, but that only goes so far.
However, a good insurance product does not replace a good product, a good yield, a good crop. It's not dollar for dollar. So we are struggling. We are burning equity as these years go by. When all you do is collect a crop insurance check, you burn a large amount of equity that same year. So producers themselves are beginning to struggle financially.
And Buchanan says the effects ripple out from there.
When we produce a crop in the irrigation district, it's about $250+ million to the local economy. We've had 3 years of that, so we're $750 million plus now of negative economic impact to the local economy. Producers, the first thing that they've had to cut, of course, are labor resources. We don't need the amount of labor we used to. So when producers are not writing payroll checks on a weekly basis, then that money is not being spent in town. So therefore, the local shoe salesman, the grocery store, even the gas stations are seeing significant declines in what the products that they sell. So it's reaching out past just the ag economy now and into the local economy as a whole.
The longer the lake stays dry, the tougher it will be for the local cotton industry to recover.
If there's no cotton harvested off the field, then there's none brought to the gin itself, so therefore that gin has been idle. And when that gin's idle, then those employees are not needed and aren't there either. And the really critical part of that is that those employees, that's a really specialized skill set to be able to operate a cotton gin. You can't just pull someone off the street and expect them to be able to do that to the quality that we need. And there's legitimate concern now that when our cotton crop comes back, where will we find those people to fill back in and run that facility for us?
Buchanan is optimistic the irrigation channels can be flowing again in the near future.
The vast majority of our inflow occurs in April and May of every year, then a little bit into June. But if you can get those 3 months back to what I think is average, if there is an average, then 1 year can put us back where we need to be. In fact, we have had significant events throughout our 67 years of history that show a 2 or 3 day rain event in the right place can create significant rainfall for us.
And that rainfall is just what this thirsty lake and parched economy need right now.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet Weather Report. October October and November rains are often the main driver of wheat and canola growth, so farmers and ranchers keep close tabs on who gets rain and how much they get. Our latest round of rain started Tuesday and continued into Wednesday. The storms produced multiple bands across Oklahoma, from the southwest to the northeast. Some heavy amounts, 2.5+ inches, fell in a long band through Ouachita, Blaine, and Garfield counties. Heavy amounts also fell in Choctaw, McCurtain, and LaFleur counties. During the 14 days from October 24th to November 6th, the rainfall bands still jump out. Blue areas had less than 1 inch. Much of the green-colored areas had 2 or more inches, yellow areas over 4 inches. For the 30 days from October 8th to November 6th, good rainfall amounts of 3 or more inches were recorded for just over half the state. The highest rainfall areas on this map, red areas, had over 8 inches of rain. Good rain or lack of rain shows up on a map of soil moisture at 10 inches. The dark green areas have high soil moisture. Yellowish areas are in the mid to low range, while the brown areas are dry. Here's Gary with a check on drought conditions and a look ahead.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, everybody. It's certainly great to be back on SUNUP after a brief hiatus. So as we look back at the rainfall, as Al showed you, we've had some pretty decent rains over the last month or so. So we have had some pretty good drought relief. So let's start with a look at the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map. Now, we have seen continued drought relief across eastern Oklahoma, but a bit of an expansion across the far southwest of extreme and exceptional drought. You can see the D4 exceptional drought, that darker color, now across Tillman, Jackson, and Harmon counties. Drought going on its way out across the eastern parts of the state, and it's spreading up a little bit into central Oklahoma. There's still some drought there, so maybe with some continued rainfall we can take care of that as well. Those areas with the drought match the year-to-date rainfall statistics from the Mesonet quite well. We've had areas like down in the southwest. Hollis had 14.2 inches, Altus 15.3 inches, and then up in the Panhandle, Goodwell's only had 12.2 inches. But then as you go into central and eastern Oklahoma, we've had areas that have had 40 inches, even more than 50 inches. And as we look at the departure from normal rainfall maps from the Mesonet for the same period, we can see southwest Oklahoma, those areas are 8 to even more than 10 inches below normal for the year thus far, while central and parts of eastern Oklahoma are more than 10 inches above normal. So again, the haves versus the have-nots. We see increased odds of above normal temperatures across the entire state, and really not much of a prediction for precipitation. So now we've seen good rains across the eastern 2/3 of the state. Now we need those, once again, I say this almost every time, to spread to the west. So we can hope for that as we start to go through November into December. In the form of rain or snow, whatever it is, we'll take it. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Kim Anderson, our crop marketing specialist, joins us now. Kim, we've been talking about cotton this week. Give us an idea of the overall situation.
Well, if you look at expected or projected U.S. cotton production, it's somewhere around 13 million bales. Normally we produce a little over 15 million, so we're down about 14%, something like that. World production, though, is expected to be slightly above average at 117 million bales. If you look at projected ending stocks for the 2013-14 marketing year, the United States is going to be well below average on ending stocks, with the world offsetting that, being above average on ending stocks. Price is expected to be right at the 5-year average, around 75, 77 cents, and maybe range between 70 and 85, something like that.
Okay, let's switch gears now and look at canola.
Canola is it's planted, it's in the ground, it looks really good. Probably 275,000 acres. A home run would be 300,000, something like that. Forward contracting price for canola, looking out at June of 2014, around $9.75 a bushel. That's for a 50-pound bushel. If a producer's wanting to watch canola prices, they can watch the Winnipeg Commodity Exchange, the canola contract for the July 14. Now that contract's in metric tons and it's in Canadian dollars, but you can convert that to Oklahoma bushels by dividing the price by 44.1 and then subtracting 2 or $2 off of that, a $2 basis, and you'll just about get the projected July 2014 canola price for Oklahoma.
Okay, a lot of wheat in the ground also. Travel around the state seeing those fields of green. What's the wheat picture?
Well, it's looking really good. We've got pasture. I know a lot of producers are buying cattle and putting cattle out. The forward contract price for wheat somewhere around $6.70. Again, you can watch the Kansas City Board of Trade July 14 contract, subtract about 40-cent basis off that, and that'll get you your forward contract estimate for next year. If you're watching the December contracts, you still have wheat in the bin. We've lost about 30 cents over the last couple of weeks, and that December contract's trading from about $7.05 to $7.26.
Okay, so overall prices?
Well, they're looking good. I think they're probably going to move sideways in here. The harvest price is slightly above the 5-year average. Some producers may want to take maybe 10% of their expected production and lock some of that in.
Okay, Kim Anderson, our crop marketing specialist. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
In the fall of the year, at weaning time is also a typical time of the year when many cow-calf operations will go through the cows and decide which ones are going to be culled this year and sent to town to market. Culled cows represent about 20% of the overall income of any cow-calf operation, so it's important that we do our marketing with them very, very successfully. As you're marketing culled cows, know what the USDA market news reports are actually telling you. You'll notice that they list cows in about 4 different classifications. They'll call some of them breakers. Breakers are very, very fleshy cows. Those in our body condition scoring system that would be 7s, 8s, and 9s. Boners are next. Those cows are those that we would call in very good body condition, about a 5.5 through the 6 body condition score. Then we have leans. Those represent those much thinner cows, usually in the body condition score of 3, 4, even the low end of the 5 in our body condition scoring system. And finally, then there'll be lights. Those will be thin cows that are very small in frame and will usually weigh less than 1,000 pounds in terms of live weight. What you'll notice when you look at the reports coming from any of the market news services is that the highest price cows per pound will be those in that boner classification. The breakers will be pretty close, but they'll usually be $1 or $2 less per hundredweight than the boners. The leans, as we looked at the report here of just about last week in Oklahoma City, there was about a $10 difference in the price per pound of leans versus boner cows. And that tells me that if we're culling some cows this fall, and we've got some that are pretty thin, if we've got the option of keeping them and perhaps putting them on some wheat pasture that we won't be using and get them to gain body condition, they'll also be gaining weight. And that's one of the few times in the beef industry where we can gain weight and fleshiness and increase the price per pound of the cattle. Now, if you'd like to keep track of market reports of cattle, culled cows, feeder cattle from all across the country, go to the SUNUP website and look under show links. We've got a link there to a USDA listing of cattle reports from all across the United States. And you could even go in there and look at Oklahoma and see some of the same kinds of data that I was talking about today. We hope this will help you in terms of improving your marketability of culled cows. And we sure look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
The fall run on feeder cows is well underway, and here to talk about that and much more in the livestock markets is Darrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. Darrell, let's talk about that fall run. What's really going on in the market right now?
You know, this has been a bit of an unusual fall in terms of seasonal price patterns. Typically, you know, cows, feeder cattle, particularly the calves, are at their seasonal low in the fall of the year, and we've seen markets strengthening or certainly holding their own this fall. So it's been a somewhat unusual year with the strength we're seeing, and it's because of the underlying change in the bigger market fundamentals. We're just moving into this tighter supply situation.
All right, so let's put that in context for Oklahoma producers. Let's talk about cow-calf producers, and particularly the culled cow situation. What are we seeing there right now?
Cull cow prices this fall have held up pretty well. You know, cull cows typically have the strongest seasonal drop in the fall of the year. We should be right at the low for the year, and in fact we're not. Prices have dropped relatively little this fall. So producers that have cull cows to sell, they're selling pretty well right now. On the other hand, if they're thin and you got an opportunity to put a little weight on them, you know, we'll probably see these prices certainly hold. We might not see as much seasonal increase that we normally do into, say, January or February, but on the other hand, I really think we might, even though prices are still pretty high. So if you've got some feed resources that don't have a better use, it's not a bad thing to put a little bit more weight on those cows before you sell them.
All right, well, that's cows. Let's talk about calves next.
For the cow-calf producer, again, calves are at almost record levels. So, you know, if you're selling calves right now, you got to be pretty happy with that. If you're in a situation where you're thinking about retained ownership, it depends on the weight of those calves, how you want to approach that. If these calves are in the 4 weight area and you got a chance to retain ownership, you wouldn't want to put just a little bit of weight on, because there's actually a pretty sharp price break in that first 100 to 125 pounds. If you're going to retain them and put, you know, 200 to 300 pounds on them in a longer term retained ownership program, that would work fine. So you can either sell them now right off the cow, or you can retain them for quite a long period of time and put lots of weight on them. You just don't want to put only a little bit of weight on them. You really won't get much for that at this point in the market.
All right, what about the stalker situation? What's the market looking like for that?
Stockers, you know, again, wheat pasture's coming on. It's running a little late. We're probably going to have a short winter grazing season, and that same price break that I just talked about applies to the stocker producers as well. If you buy a 4 weight steer right now, that first 50 to 100 pounds has relatively little value because of the size of that price break. So you might want to think about buying a heavier calf for a short winter grazing period. There's a lot better value of gain from 550 to 600 pounds as a beginning weight, and then put your, you know, 200 pounds on this winter. On the other hand, if you're going to retain these calves all the way through graze out, you're going to put, you know, 250 to 350 pounds on these calves by next May. Buying the lighter weight calves will probably work out okay. So again, think about that price break in the market and which side of that market you want to buy on.
All right, good information as always. Darrell Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Today we want to talk about lockout, tagout for your breaker boxes.
Okay, so you're wanting to work on something on the electrical box, change the outlet or whatever, and you're afraid that your wife might come in and turn the switch on while you're doing that.
Well, there's ways that, and there's tools available to go ahead and lock that breaker so that it cannot be turned on, so you definitely know that power is off and is going to stay off.
So one thing you can do obviously is lock up your panel, and but there's some other things that you can get to lock out your breakers. And first of all, you turn it off, and then, for example, this breaker, you just slip this over the switch, pull it down, and you can put a lock on that, and then that keeps that from being switched to the on position.
So there's some tips for lockout, tagouts on breaker boxes. We'll see you next week on Shop Stop.
Finally, today, we are happy to tell you about some major progress at an Oklahoma State University research station that was leveled by an EF4 tornado. Here's SUNUP's Dave Deacon.
Oklahoma Highway 5 is the main road between Frederick and Tipton. It's not real busy, but not a lot is around here, which is one reason that makes this the perfect place to perform experiments for Oklahoma State University.
Basically here at Tipton we do cotton and wheat research. We do have the grain sorghum state variety trials here.
And the other is?
One of our premier soils here in Oklahoma. You get a lot of bang for your buck, and it's a very important station in our system.
The wind blows and the plants just grow. And everything changed 2 years ago this last Thursday when an EF4 tornado hit the research station south of Tipton and uprooted over 50 trees, blew away 2 buildings, and tons of machinery.
Well, I remember the day vividly. I had turned on the television and I saw the radar from Lawton, and they mentioned there was a tornado 4 miles south of Tipton, Oklahoma. Seconds later, my school phone rang and I almost knew that we'd probably been hit. did a lot of devastation, and actually it wiped this corner of the research station off the map, and we lost everything we had.
Of course, when anything is destroyed nowadays, given budgets, you actually have to look at what is the future of the entire facility. You know, is it something that we need to build back?
It was decided that the station was too important to Oklahoma State University's research, so the station had to go back online as soon as possible.
This soil here, it's very unique. But it does serve the producers in this region very well. And so there was really no question we needed to build back. It was just a matter of how soon can we get it constructed back again.
Circumstances were that, you know, if you're going to upgrade facilities, you probably want to do it another way than the way we've had to do it.
And it is quite an upgrade. Approximately the same amount of square footage, now in one building.
So within this facility here, we've got a very large area that we can pull equipment in, some of the nicest, newest pickers that are out there, and even some of the newer module builders. If we ever are lucky enough to have one of those, it's big enough to accommodate that. And then we also have an office area here, bathrooms, and I'd have to say one of the most important things that we've got here that I was really adamant about was to have a safe room.
Well, it gives you a little security if you don't have time to go anywhere, because we didn't have any place to go here or at Altus at the time.
But now you do.
And we do.
Because of what happened here 2 years ago, safe rooms have been installed in all Oklahoma State University research station facilities across the state. While rebuilding the Southwest Agronomy Research Station at Tipton, one more change was made. This one you can see from the road.
If I went in town in Tipton or Frederick, they always referred to this as the Tipton Research Station.
I think the name speaks very loudly about the pride.
So it just made good sense to name it the Tipton Valley Research Center.
Lessons learned from a rare November tornado have been an opportunity for change, not only in the equipment used to conduct experiments in southwest Oklahoma, but also in the safety of the people working on those experiments.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime at sunup.okstate.edu. You can also follow us on YouTube and other social media. From Jackson County, I'm Lyndall Stout, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.